Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and your guide along the way. And today, we are talking to my good old friend, Paul Dabek. And how he has not ended up on the podcast is a little bit of a mystery. That I've been doing the podcast, and he was there right when it started, when the pandemic hit. Me and him were both in Vegas, and we were pondering what to do with our lives as the showbiz world died, as I described in episode 1 of this podcast. And we talk about it. I think I'm not even sure, but I did meet Paul for the first time when we did a gig together in Cape Town in South Africa, and we shared a dressing room down in a wonderful theatre there, and really connected quite deeply. Peculiar circumstances and things going on all around us, and we just really found a very good tone, and it has continued, and as you will hear, our collaborations continue. And because we've sort of been working a lot together the last few years or so on London Calling, we keep thinking that, okay, once I get to Australia, I will record some episodes, but we have not managed to do it until my second time in Vegas in 2025. And because of a full schedule, I didn't manage to squeeze them into 2025, but here we are, straight off the bat into 2026 with my good friend Paul Dabek. When we have been doing projects together in Australia with your show London Calling, then it's you're doing so much that it's just never been...
We've never managed to sit down.
No.
Which is wild also, because I was thinking about it. I was like, also, I think I was around certainly, or one of the people we would be jamming about the Way of the Showman podcast when, I mean, it's very much been a sort of solo quest journey, but I can remember, as we've just sat here and done, we seem to have this lovely shorthand. I remember us kind of talking about it, and you just sort of, sometimes just speaking it into existence to someone is enough.
Oh, yeah.
And you jamming on your book and the podcast and what have you, and what it could be. And obviously the time it grew very much out of the kind of poetry that we almost had to have at looking at the world at that time. I remember listening. I haven't managed to catch an episode for a little while, but I remember listening to that first season, as it were, which was very emotional almost, and thought-provoking, and people really found it a kind of a balm on the kind of scarring that the industry was going through. But it really did come out of that time, and when we were here together.
And important things like I've spoken about on the podcast before, the plate spinning act that I had been talking about.
Yes.
And what we jammed out on sitting by the pool there, or the couple of times when we talk, that really became the kind of cornerstone of that show that I did, which to me was like the only big presentation of new material also when I got back to Norway. And
that's right.
Shows got cancelled left, right and centre, and I was in town, and they went, can you come in and do it?
And it's so funny actually also what that, at least because obviously I haven't seen it in English, I don't think I've even seen it in Norwegian, but we talked about it after it happened, and it also had a weird poetic element of what was going on in the world, because I was like, it has to be all crashing around you. It has to finish with it all just... Is that how it finishes,
that
with everything falling down?
Yeah. And it finishes with me. And it was like that first session that we had, where it went from being... about, like, because you always with plate spinning, you got the plates going, and then something else is going
trick,
on.
But usually spoons and glasses,
that's like a common
or
thing.
A juggling thing.
So there's some other thing that you want to do so that it has an ending or something, because that's what I was after.
You keep going to, there needs to be, it's almost like the whatever the trick is like the last big plate that you're going to, and then you have to put it down because you've got to go and keep fixing. And it's the not friction. It's the every good story needs
conflict or like
conflict. It's the
also,
conflict.
To me, it's the you have once you start doing the plates, then there is an inevitability about it. You have a stack of plates, and then we go, okay, well, so
we know what.
We know where this is going.
I always felt like that about Dabek when you see a magician and there's a cage on stage, and in the first minute they produce a dove, and you go, well, I don't know how many or how slick it's going to be, but I can see a dove. I know that, and maybe it's a magician thing, but I see a bird cage on stage. So, and I always thought that was so weird. And when I used to do a dove act when I first started, all I did was turn the bird cage round. So the front had the bars and the back had the cloth at the back. So it just turned the other. So it was just a black box on stage. And then I would never produce my first dove till a minute and a half into the routine, the routine. And when that first dove appeared, a minute and a half into this magic routine, the reaction was huge. And then I would just turn the cage around and put the dove in. And then obviously there was a few more coming. But same thing with the plates.
So it's inevitability. And I'm going to the ending that we're always after, I think, is inevitable, yet surprising.
Yeah.
And it's the yet surprising thing that came in once I cracked together with you that it was like, oh, maybe the whole thing about reading the poem is what we are trying to do. Once that came in, and then the burning book and all of these things,
that gave you the license to do that. But the great thing about that, compared to other plate spinning acts, is that it had surprises in each time that you came back to the book, instead of almost being a mini, like the spoons and the glasses. Great trick, but it's got an inevitability, and you're kind of doubling down on the same thing.
Now you do one trick and then you do another trick and then it's done. But the thing about that was so genius that we sort of hashed out in two main sessions by the pool is what then happens in the end when you are standing and you're reading the poem and the plates are coming smashing down, where like.
It's also a real turn. Yeah, it's a turn that you don't expect. It's sort of
surprising. So then,
and yet it's so. Well, also because there's a slight kind of indulgence because you've got to crash a bunch of plates, that makes it just so wonderful. It's like the difference of like. It's just there's something about that, whatever the tricks are that use, things that you can never use again, mouth coils or whatever. But there's something about exactly that in the slapdash way in which I just was on tour with Piff All Stars. So it was Piff and four other acts. Yeah. And they'd licensed the human fountains from America's Got Talent, which is a bunch of guys, spitting water out. And it was so interesting because I'd seen it on TV. I was like, novelty act, whatever. When I saw it done live on stage, it was so great.
Yeah.
Because it's so silly, but there was one thing that made it so wonderful, which is they do not put down a tarp or a paddling pool or anything. They're spitting water out onto a live stage. And if they'd have literally put something out, even if you just saw a little moment or whatever, it just wouldn't be as good. It's like your confetti. It's the opulence of just doing it. It's not funny if it's not potentially going to short the stage, or I don't really quite know how to put it, but I think it's the same as a lot of clown bits where you steal a drink or you put some water out of a thing and spit some water on. There's something about the chaos and the oh my God, I can't believe they just splashed water on the stage, something we wouldn't do normally. That makes it work.
The Daredevils, when I just did La Clique with them in July, and they have a bit where he's drinking the beer and then spits it back in the audience. It is so simple. Somebody give them a free drink later. Someone's just paying attention, and it's like, but the shock of this, or like he's nude, and he puts his balls in someone's drink to hide it, or whatever, and it just like,
and you cannot have the audience see what you know will happen, which is somebody come over and give the drink or say, like this is my biggest pet peeve in shows where they do something like that. And then the moment the lights go down, you see an usher go to them and sort it all out. And it's like, just wait a little while.
Just wait until the focus has fully
because it's so great.
Yeah.
Like
there's
what
something
you can
about that makes it
so
anarchic
ballsy.
and kind of punk.
Yeah.
Even though we are like, everything is taken care of, no one is being out of business here. If it's someone has an issue, then the drink is organized ahead of time. Whatever it is solved.
It's turning the kid upside down and the change coming out. There's an old bit where, you pick up a child and turn them upside down. You've got a handful of change, and it looks like you've just shaken them for change.
Yeah.
The reason that bit kills and is so inappropriate in lesser performers' hands is that you have to literally treat the kid like a prop and send them back, and then not go over and go, is everything okay? Oh, that wasn't really his money, and whatever else. And yet it all, like David Devant, has to be done with kindness.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's why that bit is so great, because you never see them go over and go, oh, everything's okay, and check in with the kid, which is what you as a good citizen should do.
Yeah.
But it's that absolute commit to the bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you smash the plates around you, which was what I wanted.
But anyway,
I was like, that has to happen.
Yeah, and it's like that was an idea from the very beginning. But of course, the pragmatist in me goes, it'd be good if you didn't smash the plates.
Yeah.
Because as a result, made that act, did it, and it was epic. And then I thought, okay, I had this other potential to do it. Or I had a gig at a festival that had a poetry component. I thought, this is just great.
Yeah.
But I was part of a program, and I was on, and then there was a band right after. And to smash 12 plates on that stage, and the amount of logistics that was involved in making sure that there are not now, because it's so much when I did it in that other show, and how far it sprays and all of this. It's like that. This is probably a thing that I should do when I'm doing a show where I can then afterwards make sure that everything is cleaned up. Not as part. I mean, it's not a lineup show, but it was, I'm doing something, and then the people had bought tickets, and there were several components to it, so they are kind of watching. And so anyway, but be that as it may, what I was going to point out was that around that pool, and in this time leading up to the pandemic, and then it solidified during the pandemic, we also spoke about the podcast. So those things that we were talking about around that time, it all now...
I think London Calling was something I'd conceptualized a lot during the pandemic, and was going to be a very different thing. I didn't have you in mind. It was going to be a variety show that basically I could be the star of, that was all British themed. And I was thinking of the English Gents and mainly other British acts.
Yeah. That was the angle. And it was... that was after the pandemic. By the time you were like, that was coming back up again or whatever. And in one of our sessions, which I think was just on the phone, but
maybe with Dom and you and I and Charlie.
That was it. But just that it could just be from the city of London, which now that we both have a connection to Mad Apple, I mean, you much more than me, of course, for being part of the creation and everything. But for us to be a show set in a town where not everybody is from New York, because one of the key features of New York, from the history of the people coming in and seeing the Statue of Liberty, but the same is for London too. It's a metropolitan, international town, and once that, and of course when we talk about that now, it seems like such an easy leap of logic, but afterwards you also, but such it is always with great ideas. It feels like this is inevitable. Yeah. Like, of course, this was what it was supposed to be.
It was so... I think also because it came from a more... I won't say selfish, but like it came from me wanting to create a vehicle to be the star of. Because I was like, okay, well, I can't get on TV as Paul Dabek, but I've been on TV as the host of The Illusionists, and, so I was like, maybe I should create a vehicle that I can be the star of, which would be easier to sell to improve my career than, being trying to do it on my own. So I was trying to, especially having moved to America, play off that British thing. Ironically, I've spent less time being a Brit in America than I have pretending to be American. But because of course in Mad Apple, you know, maybe we could do another episode with Nicky. I'm sure he would love to. It'd be a lot more entertaining than my ramblings. But that was what I thought. And so, of course, it was, maybe I can use the English gents because they're Australian, but they do a British-themed act. And I was thinking of British-themed acts rather than acts that are synonymous with London. And then as I started to go, but really I just want great acts. And then I was like, I can't remember the day that I suddenly went Wimbledon and just went, well, the acts, it's there. And then and I think that really helped. I already had this idea of this journey and train stations and travel. So Antje, I had worked with for when I was 21, nearly 20 years ago now.
And the show at the Magic Circle.
We did the Magic Circle. I was 21. And we did a variety show. It was myself, Jeffrey Durham, Antje Poda, David Kaplan, the great Kaplan, and who was the other person on that show? Scott Penrose was in the opening, and I can't remember who else. There was somebody else in that show. But yeah, it just stayed with me. Oh, Danny Cole and Stacey. So two of my oldest friends in show business. Danny and Stacey Cole that I met there, who I now still just saw Danny, and I go over to, they live in Hawaii, and incredible magicians. And Antje. And Antje's act stayed with me. I don't think I spoke to Antje for about 11 or 12 years, just because it's one of the people I worked with. Yeah. And I just had that act in my mind. I was just like, and she loves it because she's like, you built a show around my act, because it's, you know, the opening. It's hard to imagine anyone else in that spot because the opening is just not only such a great act, but just so of the feel of this journey we're going on that I wanted, and these characters. And then once that started, it just flowed, that, you know, and I think we've had a couple of shows where there's been 2 British people in. Most shows there's been 1. And we've got, you know, we've had Germany, Mexico, Australia, Norway, Sweden, a few folks from the UK. And
it's a wide, and
it's so much better for it.
Yeah, and the concept then, it's like it's also now seems so easy. It's a journey through London, but the
with
concept
people that live there or have travelled
there, performing there, or that was brought there for some reason.
And the irony is, your career started on the streets of London. Mine certainly a little bit later. I moved to London, but certainly progressed in Covent Garden on the streets of London. Antje I met in London, doing a show in London. You know.
And I solidified myself. It's like,
so London's been a
street
part.
performer, and then I did my act, my tennis act inside with the Happy Side show, and did it the 10,000 times in street, and then came to London, played at the Royal Festival Hall, and then the year after at Queen Elizabeth Hall with Circus Oz.
Right.
And before that, people had gone, it's great. And we got on Rove Live, like the main television show, the Letterman-style show. And through him seeing us at a club, and he came up afterwards, hey, I'm Rove. And we're going, you know who it is? And I want you guys on my show. And anyway, the act was good. But when I then came to England, that first season in a 3,000-seater, as opposed to being on a fringe circuit or on the street or whatever, then 2 of the reviews used the word genius to describe it. Being able to put slapstick on that stage, being seen like that, and there was like Tommy Cooper and all these equivalents were made in reviews, where it was like the first time when it came sort of as a full package. And of course it is, I notice it now too at Mad Apple, when there are Brits in there, they understand how, that being as stupid and clumsy as I am, that's a skill.
Well, that there's a maestro, there's a high level of skill to it. I mean, it's
just
mastery.
appreciate-
There's a mastery involved in slapstick.
Yeah, which I think the British understand the most.
Yeah.
So for me as well, that, and then of course ending up spending 2.5 years there over the years with La Clique.
And then playing the Hippodrome.
Yeah.
Roundhouse.
So that was La Clique, Roundhouse, all these big venues, and then big Spiegel tents down on the South Bank. So 2.5 years of solid shows there.
Yeah.
So definitely made me. It was such a big.
Yeah, you feel like a Londoner.
Yeah.
And when you go back, you might not have been born in London, but it's like we all have this affinity to it, and so that's another layer that's so beautiful. Of course, Antia, her partner, amazing magician, Richard McDougall, is London-based as well, so she spends a lot of time there. So it's not needed, but it's a wonderful extra layer of love for that city that is layered into something that's quite a simple concept, and also could be a very cartoony. We play with a lot of the iconography, the things you expect from London, and then I'm trying to also add in little layers of I didn't think about that or that, and really want to explore more of the multicultural elements of both London and Chinatown and Curry Mile and all over the place, and all those parts that are more about London than maybe the pearly king and queens and stuff now. Just what really great other cultures, and I would love to add more of that into the show. But ultimately all those little things that you never even thought in the first concept that have made it so rich.
Yeah. And then so you've done 3 big seasons, and where you're producing it and upscaling it, and some sold ones in between that are maybe a little downscaled compared to the big.
Yep.
And it has grown so much and found such a great audience in Adelaide from that first year, where, as all shows, we knew we had a killer show, but we were on a very new, or was it the first year, or anyway?
First year of the Hub, a time that was not necessarily suitable in that we wanted the show to be family friendly. I mean, I was very, very conscious that I wanted the show to be family friendly, but not necessarily advertised as that, or not necessarily. I wanted to be. It doesn't say on Wicked family friendly. It doesn't say on Jersey Boys family friendly. But you can take. It doesn't say on so many musicals.
Matt King's show,
right?
It's absolutely suitable for families. But when I just saw him in LA at the Magic Castle, and then you realize the laugh count, the interaction count. It is relentless the way that the show's
broad in the best sense of the word.
Yeah, but when you're there watching it on a Thursday at 3:00, then. And there's families there and whatever, and they're paying attention. Everyone's going like, this is amazing.
It's for everyone.
It's for everyone.
As opposed to being advertised as, often I find that family friendly on some marketing, even though you want it to say that in some way, shape or form, can then skew it to being a children's/family show.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the genius, and I have to pay massive dues to a lot of the good choices I've made, and I've made some bad ones too, but a lot of the good ones come from watching, listening and learning what Simon Painter and Neil Dorwood and everyone at the Works did. And also being lucky to be able to pick up the phone to those people and ask for advice to basically attempt to duplicate albeit different flavor, but similar style of company in the way it was set up and the shows were set up. And so what The Illusionist was brilliant at doing was having a very dark, kind of moody, classic magic aesthetic, so they could strap fun for the whole family across it, and you didn't think that it was a kid's show because the aesthetic was more adult. I decided London Calling to go a little more cartoony and not put family friendly on it because the visual kind of leads to that.
Yeah.
And so then I hit it with Stars of the Illusionist and Cirque du Soleil, and this is a non-stop. And so the verbiage attempts to bring in the adults. But ultimately what I wanted was the thing that I kept saying when I would do media for the Illusionists. And because I was sort of hosting the show, I would often be the one sent to do the early morning press or whatever else. And, you just kind of get used to pitching the show and knowing what to say. And my thing was, a lot of shows say they're for the whole family and all ages, but this truly is a show you could bring your kids to, or you could bring your grandparents to, or you could bring a date. And you'd all have a great time. And I always felt like that. I want somebody to come in on a first date in their 20s or 30s to see the show and not to be sat there looking around and going, oh, we've come to a kids show. And I don't want people that have brought their kids to be coming in and going, oh, this is going to be an inappropriate show. And I want those two groups of people to coexist like they do before the music starts at Wicked, and I use musical theatre because I think that's a really good example. And I don't think Variety's kind of caught up to selling that way. It seems very much this is a family/kid show, or this is a naughty, sexy late night show. And I wanted to find that middle ground. I think Illusionists did it so well, and did it with Circus 1903, and did it again and again and again with their shows. And I think that that's what I love about London Calling. It is absolutely appropriate to take your kids to of any age, because the visuals, if they're so young that they don't understand the comedy, the visuals are so strong to keep a child kind of wide-eyed and starry-eyed. The comedy's so strong that the adults and the kids are enjoying it, and then the skill set of what's happening is amazing. And I think that that's what we've ultimately nailed or are continuing to work on. And I think that that's what the market has responded to, because there is so little of that in that variety space. And I think that that's ultimately so far what's been, what took us in that first year, where we, like you say, we knew we had it, but we were testing in a funny time. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. That's where we were at.
Like starting from where we are literally like fringe shows, where we were doing shows, mini street shows in the garden, which of course had the great effect of people then want to fly because they see what is being done. Our little step right up. We were working. The show before us was very busy, and it was at the prime time. And it was our friends' show, the lovely guys from Head First Acrobats. It was gods, and it was their second or third year, and it was killing. And we would just go out and just entertain their crowd before we fly. We had that, and we had it down. And you know what? That was what was so lovely looking back at it, is that you have Antje, who I know, I'm so glad you guys got a chat and have, go back and listen to Antje's story and excuse me. But, Antje, yourself, myself, happy. Yes, of course, we love to not do it, but happy and actively enjoying and ready to go to see that little 20 minutes of doing something in the garden and just getting around the people is not going to turn our season around. But every night that's going to mean that we have a nice audience and we get moving, because you got people that could have the kind of diva-ish, oh no, I don't do that. Pitching in and being like, we were all pulling together as a cast. Nobody in that cast ever complained about small houses or hard work, lifting that huge telephone box up and down onto stage, all those refolding bunting that had Union Jacks, that's right.
Whatever it was, because we all just knew, I think, that we had something special. Even when we had those 30, 40, 50 person crowds mid-week, and we were, in the early hundreds at weekends. But even with what should be a really tough crowd, you'd hear Antje do that first number, and then you were just like, this is going to be a lovely show with 40 people, and it's going to be
even
awesome.
By your introduction in it as well, like you go, okay, this is of a level. And even then, when there was just the phone booth as of hard equipment, apart from suitcases, you come in and you go, this is operating on a different level.
The same thing that we're talking about, having to let those plates drop. This is operating on a basically pain in the ass level. There's like 2 or 3 things here that are absolute pains in the ass for this company to have or do. But the I say the equation has been done. Basically, I've set my heart on something, and that extra mile is compounding. And we've seen that with the show now, because that first year of like those 2 or 3 things that you're like, oh, we'll just cut that phone box because it's too heavy to lift up and lift down. And it's no, we're all going to turn up and we're going to put it up there. And that same ethos, I think, has just compounded. And you see it with every act that comes and joins the company and thinks, and I'm still learning to manage people and things and whatever. And it's all a bit crazy and I'm a bit of an idiot and trying to work everything out. And then that opening night happens and you watch those new people go, oh, this is something special, on the shoulders of everyone that's been before. And it just seems to be, it's so fun to watch. The culture is what's carrying that company forward, and also, ultimately bringing in people that are, you know, way better acts than I can afford, you know, because it's like, I think they can see, and we were talking about this before, it's hard to sell people on that if, like, probably because we'd sat and talked, you took a chance on coming out and a pay cut to come and be in that first show. And you need those people that see your vision. Once you get a little move forward, it's easier. It's been so much easier having had you and Antia and people long-term with the show. And, you know, people like Matt Ricardo and John come in. And, you know, this year we had, I think, 3 artists that have been in Cirque du Soleil. Yeah. You know, Antia, who is like one of the greatest, not just variety acts in the world, you know, and, you know, just wild to think of
also within the people roster that have seen or heard of the show, which at the moment kind of means that you need to have been in Australia for the fringe shows. But then so much heavy lifting is done because you go, oh my Lord, then you want to be.
We went in 2 years, 3 fringes from, and this is not a boast because I mean, we've just talked about my personal, you know, situation with business. I invest everything back into it. But we went from that first year going to Australia. We sold 2,000 tickets, which sounds like a lot, but over the course of 27 shows is, you know, less than 100 tickets per show. And I think that was our sales. We, if you want to look at it, of that show, lost $50,000 on it. I never saw it as a loss because I knew it was development costs, because this was not the end game, was that run in Adelaide. And in 2 years, or three fringes, but 2 years sort of, and with very little development in between because we only did the fringe, we went from 2,000 tickets sold to 15,000 tickets sold, $50,000 lost, to a box office of $500,000, which is incredible growth over 2 years anyway, if we'd have been touring the whole year. But that's in just going back once in 2024 and then back in 25. And 24 I think we sold 12,000 tickets. So, and a big part of that, a huge part of that, and allowing the show to develop and become bigger, was Matt Tarrant coming on board and taking over a lot of all of the marketing, and being a yes and guy with me and some of my crazy ideas, and also knowing where to put his foot down as well, and just pouring gasoline on the show. You know, that was incredible.
Going back to just that first one too, as much as we were out there trying to sell tickets to sell an additional 20 tickets with doing basically street shows, we also at the end won the pick of the fringe, because in the beginning you go, oh man, there's so much competition, 1,200 shows, it's so hard to sell tickets, so hard to break through, and you have a great product, but when nobody knows about you, of course it picked up towards the end and the word got out there. And
I had no idea where to spend the marketing money too, and some of that was badly allotted, and I my vision was purely on building this show, and a certain scenic element and weird things. There's weird things that now you look and you go, why did you have that thing? But if you see the show now, you see it was like our little screen. It was a placeholder.
Why did we have a stretch sheet?
Yeah, a little stretch spandex above
hanging
the
in
thing.
the roof above the door.
That was kind of, I don't know what you would say, 2 meters by a meter or something above the door that had these scenic elements on it. So it was almost like looking at a TV that had got a little logo for the scene that was about to happen.
It's related to the thing, but of course things were promised, and then for fringe reasons
they changed.
It's like, and then there was nothing you could do. But then
it
just
had to
stick
stay.
with it. So now you see where it started, and you see where it was this year, earlier this year, in February, March 2025.
Yeah,
of where we then for the first time had that. Oh, that was the first time I was there anyway. That screen and those and the projections on it.
And twice the size of the one we'd had in 2024, where it had all started to come together, but we were using a rear projection screen. And then, but it was still a screen, even though it was kind of big. But this year it really became part of what was my original vision of it being the set.
Yeah.
And then bringing in, and for 2024 and 25, we brought in polymorphic, and Steve Tilling and Luku, and they just did such an incredible job. And so it was so satisfying to look this year at, again, having had a huge success the year before and thinking we were just going to come back with the same kind of thing or whatever, and then everything geared up and everything started to really fit. And we talk about this a lot, but we have a bar scene that you would swear you're looking at painted set.
It is incredible. And also where we were on stage and you're just focusing, and then you built, because that was one of the things that you've always done, but that was another thing that escalated during the pandemic, where you expanded and made yourself a workshop in your garage.
Yeah.
And the level of the stuff that you were making just became incredible.
Well, I was living with undiagnosed ADHD. Now I understand hyperfocus and the kind of like dopamine of what me falling into an idea I've got has, and we're sitting in it at the moment. It's oh, this might be a good idea. And in some ways, I think for some people, they'll kind of go, when does it stop? And I think you've probably gone through a little bit of that with me, seeing that. But then in another way, it's that madness that allows these weird things to come to fruition.
But that was my point, was you were building those skills, and then when you built like a physical bar with like taps.
Well, you're a dab hand with this. You're the spray paint master.
We're painting on it and whatever. But like you built that thing, and with it, and the combination was my point now. Having a LED screen
that's ultimately flat,
but with the visuals on it of a British pub, looking so great. But when you then put a 3-dimensional that looks like an oak-stained bar at the front of it, where bottles and things and actual glasses and drinks are being poured that are being used for parts and you are doing your beer swing, so there is an actual beer coming out of the bar and it's being poured and it's being used in the act. It wasn't really until we started to see people who had, for me anyway, people who had seen the show and had taken pictures, where when you saw video snippets and pictures from the front of what this actually looks like, and you go, it looks the sum of these, and there were some tables where some of the cast was sitting on tables and stools and stuff, so they were sitting in, and it just is incredible what feels like relatively little added up to just a full theatrical experience. And we were just spending ages now talking about just that scene of how you can actually have a whole coming together of all the artists, and because that was what happened, but that's the scale of where it's actually could be 3 acts actually happening within the same space, because you go to Wimbledon on the bus, and you go take the train to the Charing Cross. So all of these, each move for each act. But then you could actually have, like you said, it's the opening of the second
little
half.
Ensemble. And we kind of have it in the opening of the show. You know, that little
Yeah.
tube ride again, that's kind of this grown. And you know, a big part of that vision originally and why we had that tiny little lycra screen that didn't kind of fit was a conversation I had with Charlie Caper, which was using video and augmenting it with very physical, old school theatrical elements.
Yeah.
So originally we had an idea for a steam train thing, and we were going to do most of it on the screen, but have a little panel of the LED that opened with smoke, that real smoke that came out, and how suddenly, instead of using, you know, we used to use suitcases as the seats on a plane to represent, but suddenly just adding not a full set of something, but little really well curated pieces. And the bar is a perfect example of that, because 95% of the scene is sold on the LED screen, and then a hat stand and a bar and 3 chairs and tables suddenly make you believe you're looking at a full painted, you know, West End set.
Yeah. And when you did that, even on that first season where Charlie Caper being in the role of, and then we go to Covent Garden, we get off on the tube, and here we are, and having a lamppost on there so that he can set up his literal street show gear with his table, and then he does
the romance
balls
of
on the street.
the street lamp.
And it's just that moment where, because he is just one of the most stylish men in the business.
He didn't need that lamppost, but boy, did it frame him nicely.
Yeah,
I mean,
so then you have that, he comes through the audience with his gear and he was putting it down, and I was just like, those things was, and that's why then, out of those 1,200 shows that we were going, oh, it's so hard to be known. But the judges and the people who then came and looked at the show saw what the show was. And it felt like, even though at the end, like you say, you'd lost money, getting that stamp of getting the pick of the fringe, which is like the highest
amazing,
award
and that
you could
ultimately
get.
helped us come back the next year and really go.
Or else
off to the races.
it could have ended with just being a very expensive
test set workshop,
fun project.
Yeah. But no, it's and look, it's, I think, like, I keep using this this term compound a lot at the moment, because it's really, I've always known it, but it's almost with like I don't know, I wouldn't say wisdom with age, because you're learning all the time, but it is interesting seeing these relationships compound. It's like, oh yeah, well, my friend just came and did that. I'm like, no, I met you in 2014 or whatever it was, which is now nearly 10 years ago. Yeah. No, over 10. Sorry, yeah, 2015 was it?
Yeah,
or 14. Or maybe later.
Yeah,
maybe it's about 10 or 15. But I mean, like, we're looking at this
in Cape Town.
Yeah, in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And it's not only the compounding of friendships, it's the compounding of skill sets, it's the compounding of, you know, if you actually look at it, we've got visuals made by the same guys I worked with in The Illusionists, and a lighting designer that I've literally, our friendship and our careers have paralleled. Him and I met on a tour bus doing a Christmas show, and as my career went up, his did in his world, and he's ended up being the lighting director on a bunch of things I've been in, Mad Apple, Awana, which I worked on for Cirque du Soleil. Now he's doing Cirque Alice and is just killing it. And I mean, like, it's not just the acts, it's all these creatives that are now stepping in, and I'm able to hire, and lots of them do me favors too, but I'm able to hire and go, okay, what do we do? And that thinking about the set and the lighting, it seems so trite to sort of go, oh, well, yes, we all collaborate, isn't everyone great? But it's so easy to forget how creative that part is.
Oh, yeah.
And when there's a true collaboration between those, often the lighting designers and the set designers or whatever work very separately to the artist, but we work very closely because we're still a team where I need to work with these people.
My sweet spot as well, though, like how it was with La Clique and La Soirée for so long, where everyone from sound, light, follow spot, which was Miranda for part of it, my wife, and that was also partly why it could function, because it could function on relatively low overheads, and it could make it happen.
Compared to the things it was in competition with.
Exactly.
You know?
So when
it's
we were
still
in London,
probably in the variety space, a very expensive show.
Oh, yeah.
But in comparison to the shows I've just mentioned, Wicked or Phantom of the Opera, or the other things it's competing with, incredibly mobile and modular. That's exactly the same thing I loved about Illusionists, was how modular it was.
Well, it's a concept that can change. But of course, what happened with La Clique and La Soirée was also that it settled in to be a core team of performers, and which is sort of what you have as well.
A great roster.
You have, these are the people in it, and it's for all sorts of reasons. The way that the idea of how the show scaled with, like the first year where we already had a bit of green that I was on and a net, but how that scaled up then when the screen came on, and again, looking at pictures taken of the act, it is not just a tennis man and then there's nothing around it.
The shows, the stage is unrecognizable. Even I, who designed it and put the kind of deck together of what these scenes, and the great thing about not having a loose theme is like you get to, it's like watching a play that goes to 20 completely different scenic places, and you don't have to go back. Or now we're back in the mansion. Now we're back in. It's like you come out, you've got I really like this idea. Frank Lloyd Wright talked about it as well, and I'm kind of doing it in this warehouse space, which we should talk a little bit about too, but compressing before you expand in a space. And so how by taking an audience and making them either figuratively or physically compressed before you bring them into something grander, how it doubles the scale, the impact of something.
The emotional experience.
So
it's
being
like
in that,
the Pixies, and copied even more famously by Nirvana in Smells Like Teen Spirit. Ding, ding.
Yeah.
And you do the quiet so that you can do loud, quiet, loud, or quiet, loud, quiet, which is the name of the Pixies documentary, which is like what they did. These small, intimate, and you're doing it in this show here, where it's like you get the feeling it's just you in the beginning, when it's you telling the story.
We're inside, and you know, my vision for the larger, you know, because we're still heading towards this bigger production, is that exactly that the set and everything becomes, we're in this tube station and much smaller, and then that arrival into London, other elements wheel on, get revealed, whatever. So now, bam, we're in the centre of London.
Yeah.
And then the great thing is, because this is a variety show, we can go wherever the hell we want. And it is literally like, oh, and they're getting on the bus now, and ding, ding, we're in Wimbledon. And it's like, it does not need super clever narrative arc to take. It's like we're on a tour, so we're seeing different things. And I think that's why it's so great, because it doesn't have to suffer from that thing of like too much exposition when you often theme something too much.
But this is what we talked about a lot also, how the shorthand of going, if you want to make a successful show with story, then the show needs to somehow be a show.
Right.
If it's all set in, like, here we are on the North Pole, and oh, look at this icicle. I'm going to do now comes a pole act on this. Like, and
a show about a show.
Yeah, once you have a show about a show, then
Cabaret,
so
the musical Cabaret.
A
show about a showroom.
Yeah.
You know,
so fun. But anyway, so because you got people coming in here using this space.
Yeah.
You're living in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And you have, when I came here, I've been here twice this year working.
We are turning out to be at least 6 months of the year sharing stages or sharing roles.
Yeah.
We are couldn't be more different acts, and yet we are each other's understudy.
Yeah. So you worked in Mad Apple first, and then
and then I left,
and then you left, and now
and then sort of came back.
Now
for
you
a
and
bit.
you're playing the same exact role. Like you're doing 2 months next year, and I'm doing 2 months
and
next year.
And we did have
well.
the joy of the end of when I was sort of a more permanent part.
Yeah.
You were in that variety spot, and I was doing my shadows and playing Nikki, the general manager. So we did get to be in the show together. Yeah. Now it's more that we're not in the show together because we do the same role. But then along with long-time friend of the act, Nick DeFat.
Yeah.
But then the other week, one of the comics was out, so I went into that role, and we ended up being on stage together. So that we haven't managed. There's not been a me, you, and Nick in the same show, which would be so much fun.
But that would be difficult.
I would have to be called.
There's only 2 spots in the show.
I'd have to be called into, or you'd have to be in comedy or variety, or Nick would be in comedy variety, which could happen because you don't do magic, so you're not the same thing. And I'd have to be called in to cover Adam, I guess. Yeah, but then there'd be no juggling. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, we've been in those. We've
been here working together with Cirque's Mad Apple, but then you have this other, and started out, I guess, as like you had some project and needed a warehouse to store some stuff.
I needed some storage
and phone booths and
taxi
and what's
cars.
going to be taxi cars.
We still haven't made it onto stage yet.
But that related to the new projects and also to London Calling. And now, so you have a warehouse, and tell me how you have transformed that, because this was just an empty shell when you got it, and now it's so exciting.
Yeah, so I'm really... I'll try and go quickly through this and skip over the boring parts, but I'm really passionate about... We're okay, we've got...
got 20 minutes before someone might come.
We've got over 20 minutes before someone might come, 3:45. So as just a side note, I was sort of really fortunate. I came into Mad Apple. I was part of the creation. It was kind of chaotic. It was a great show. There was almost too much comedy in this show. It was nearly 100 minutes, and it was a bit of a difficult situation, and I had a great time. But after 3 months, it was decided that I would leave. And then things changed a little bit there, and I got invited back, and things got really good. And part of the point of going back was I said, I need the space to go and build this London Calling and do other things, because I haven't just been sitting at home doing nothing. I've organised other stuff, so I can't come into the show. Fast forward, I ended up in a really great contract for maybe 12 to 18 months where I was able to book off big stints of time and also be in the Vegas show. It was a real dream situation. Ultimately, to go and do London Calling and some other things. And what that allowed me to do was take big risk with London Calling, because I had a steady, well-paid job to come back to. And also, because of the way the role was in the show, ultimately sit in the dressing room and build elements of London Calling on paper and designs and edit music and write Chelsea's Act, which is a crazy hula hoop airline number, what have you, and put that stuff down, go on stage and come back. So I got to build something with the security of another thing looking after me.
Having a safety net, basically.
Yeah, and I'm really passionate about helping others in this town do that, because I think people work for a company in the golden handcuffs, save up all this money, and then it's a big risk to take that money and risk it on this thing when they leave the company. And so I'm really into helping people find creative ways to, maybe not on the scale that I did, but be able to start presenting, workshopping, trying things that they might like to do after or during or whatever the show. So I really wanted to help people with that and share my journey of doing that, because I think that a lot of incredibly talented artists feel very chained to their work even when they want to do something else, and I don't think it has to be a choice to leave something financially or kind of time-wise. So I wanted to kind of help people with that. I needed space, because a lot of the reason I think London Calling's had its success is that I was able to bumble my way through building a lot of physical infrastructure that would have cost a lot more money had I employed a carpenter and this, that, and the other. So we have automated pieces of set on a fringe stage that go off and on that look like a piece of West End kind of, or maybe not up close, but look like a little piece of West End theatre magic, which is, a $500 secondhand 15-year-old wheelchair motor and some casters, and it's a big lesson. I remember Matt, my co-producer looking at it and just being like, what are you not on this stage? What are you? And he's looking at this clapped out wheelchair I've bought on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm, no. And it didn't get in the show straight away, but I was like tinkering away at it.
A couple of deck chairs with boxes attached to it. But then once it actually came in the show, it was incredible.
It looks like a really high-end developed piece of scenery that would cost 50 grand to have
to your magic, because of course you're a magician.
It's just sweat equity.
It's
and so that is all consuming and tiring, but ultimately I think again has been a big part of the success is that I'm able to go and learn to do something if it's practical for want of the show. Now that sometimes can be hard because sometimes you're better just to hire someone because it's quicker and we only have a certain amount of time. But anyway, I've managed to learn a lot of stuff. And so I needed a space to kind of build some of those things. Plus I realized I really enjoy being a creative producer and I had not built a show for me to be the star of. In fact, I built a show that the sooner I'm redundant, the more successful I've become, because I actually don't do that much in the show. I kind of am there to guide the audience, but I built that role still not as funny as maybe some of my other acts because I wanted it to be able to be something I could cast someone else in or be a different flavor.
And as many acts or skills, because that also limits it down to who can do it.
I do my hand shadows, but they never really did my magic in it because we had Charlie or what have you. So also it gives me a great bonus that if shit hits the fan, I can cover two, like we could lose 2 to 3 performers in the show. Maybe logistically it might be a little difficult, but from a point of view of acts, I could cover those, and certainly up to 2, you wouldn't know that there was missing acts because I do shadows, I do magic, I do kind of a juggling and comedy bit and narrate, and they're very different things. So that there's not many producers that can take risk knowing, well, if it all goes tits up, it's going to be me and Frodo and Antje, and we'll still put on a great show, you know?
Everyone gets to do 3 acts.
But that does help, ballsy-wise.
It saves it on that day when gastro hits, and 2 people can't actually do it, and the people who come in, well, it by no means have a bad experience, because those are the shows where it happens during the Fringe, and we know that it happened where there were shows that couldn't happen because gastro hit in the other end of the site.
And I think also when you're just taking the risk of your own money 6 months out to put on a show, and you might not have found the right cast yet, or people that you want aren't available, or you might maybe have to take someone who is a little cheaper or local or whatever else, which has also ended up being great in the end anyway. But I'm just don't worry about it, because I'm like, it will come, and if it doesn't, I can cover it.
But anyway, let's focus back on the...
I ended up with this warehouse space to build a lot of those things, and I needed some space to do that. I'd also started pitching other show concepts here in Las Vegas, and one of them became a very interesting project, and I needed space to build that. So I took on this warehouse space. And originally it was just going to be a test kitchen for my project and a workshop. And then one of the projects I was working on kind of fell through that was going to pay for the rent on the place. And I suddenly went, I have to turn this space into a better facility because it's got to now cover its back a little bit more. And so I put in a kind of black box. It's about... I'm plagued by only being able to speak in feet since I moved to America, which I hate, but it's 25 feet by 35 feet. It's about 900 square feet. I think that's 80-something square meters. Sprung dance floor, 15-foot ceilings, and then it just grew. I mean, you've watched it. I ended up...
I mean, that's just that's the 80 feet. That's just the bit that has sprung dance floor.
So that's
whole thing
less than a third of the space. So it's 3,500 square foot facility, 16-foot ceilings, and then 1/3, just under a third of it, is this sprung dance floor, curtains.
With curtains all around,
black box.
So you can do dance
and
rehearsals.
And now we're in a place where it's sort of growing alongside in parallel some other things, which I'm sure we'll talk about on maybe another day, but my kind of non-profit about supporting those artists, both kind of professionally and just for having gone through things here in Vegas, seeing that there's a real gap in the support for people's mental health and just the things that come out of community. And I think the main community here for artists is attached to who they work with. And I think that, there's much more to be done to connect people and have people's, as I was just talking to Petra Massey about this, who is another incredible artist here, not from Vegas. I was talking about her and how close you and your family were with her and her family. Had there not been Spiegel World that you happened to work at the same place, these two wonderful kids and artistically aligned families might not have met. Yeah. And then you're in Vegas with a child who doesn't necessarily have other contemporary kids and families that kind of subscribe to the same, they went to the same sort of school together and whatever. And I'm like, that needs to be available to people that don't work with the set, because there's probably a family over here working for Cirque and there's a family who's a visual artist and carpenter in town that need to meet and have no reason to meet. Yeah. And so ultimately Make It Rain is this nonprofit I'm starting, which aims to kind of like help connect people professionally and socially and support the arts community just as a place to mix and to be around like-minded people. And then there's kind of a professional development side and a more social development side. And so that's existing in this build.
And then, but being here, when we were here permanently with the family, like having a place where you go, okay, we're going to go there each Sunday and before work or at the time like that. It's such a good thing to be and to meet other kids, and then you are there maybe with other performers and creatives that you don't know because they're in different shows, and you having already worked in different, using your, like you say, compounding of the contacts that you've made, and relationships means that you can pull together these people and
and I've put together these sizzle reels for different shows and concepts, again, that are like, friends of mine that are world-class performers that are so gracious to be, I'll come and this looks fun, you're doing that. They know I'm taking a swing and not earning any, I'm taking a swing on something, and they know that I always pay everyone, even if it's peppercorn, I always like to try and pay everyone as much as I can for anything that might be a commercial endeavor. But the people, the deals and the way people come together because they're excited that someone's doing it. And I just felt like with this, the same thing with this social Make It Rain and support, everybody's saying we need this, but no one's doing it. And I get why. I'm lucky and unlucky in that I don't have a immediate family, as in wife, kids, that sort of thing. So I'm able to take a swing and be risky with things. And I did that with Mad Apple, and I'm doing that with this space. And ultimately, this warehouse is going to be a hybrid of a community space. And I keep using the term church with no religion, but we kind of do have religion. It's making art of some description. That's what we worship. I'm not really religious myself, but I do miss when I grew up around a very relaxed church in the UK, the coffee afterwards, the two kids that are playing together, the Mrs. Jones who's 80 who doesn't have any kids but someone's checking in on her. That's the great part of church, temple, synagogue, mosque. That's the great thing about those places, is they're coming together for something higher. Okay, might be religion, excuse me, but it's not coming together for a dance class or there's no distraction. They're there to be with other humans. And I think that's one of the things that I want out of this space. The other is to be a lab and creating hub where people can test things, where I can test things. And so that's why we're putting in truss. I've learned how to rig. I've learned how to put down dance floors. And then also we have the element of like my company, my production company, storing stuff, the offices, and Kitty, who works with me, who I poached from Cirque du Soleil, who she's come in and working on the business side, and then the workshop. So the idea that an artist or a friend can come here and we can jam like we used to, and then step into the workshop and make a quick prototype for something and get back on stage and then film it in front of proper curtains or do the aerial routine. All of those things under one roof, albeit on a smaller version. I just love that idea of this kind of like anarchic test kitchen where shows and solo acts and my own things can all be done. And I guess the fact that I'm sharing risk between my company, the non-profit, and just artists coming and hiring the space when they can, and hopefully some more commercial stuff, that this little space, this little crazy little lab of variety can exist.
Yeah. Oh, it's so amazing. And as everything is with you, I have come into the space and you're going, yeah, it's great. I'm just hanging up these curtains and then we're ready to go. And every time I come in, it's like going, yeah, I'm just going to quickly build a Prosage Theatre. And then it's just that left now. And then we're building these, it's like the seats are going to go here now. And it's like, oh, it just keeps expanding.
Yeah.
And as a result, every time you come in, it is so much more than what it was last time, and I am so excited to see what it's like when I come back.
And it's been so interesting that talking about this compounding thing, like the old term of like bankers and real estate's going, it's all about networking. It's all about networking. And networking just felt like such a, I'm going there to network. Here's a business card, and it felt so snake oily and so weird for me. And yet now I'm like going places to network, but it's so different because I'm realizing networking is what we all did organically. It's making friends, it's doing projects together, it's hiring your friends for stuff when you can, and paying them properly or as much as you can. And whatever you think is going. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about jab, 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 right hook, giving value, then asking for something. But most people don't give value willingly. His point is give value willingly and have that be your focus. And then when you do need help, you will get it. Not do 3 things for people, then ask for something.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm finding is like the more I lean into just doing cool stuff, working with people I like, and the less I ask of them, the more I'm getting in return because I'm creating stuff. And these people are just starting to step forward. I just got donated this beautiful set from a show that is now we're putting this beautiful proscenium in.
That's what I was talking about when it was like a proscenium theatre, and it's like a stage and everything. But exactly that. And that wouldn't have been offered up if not all of this other work had been done with no real
I made a video.
Anything.
If you go on the Make It Rain Studios or Make It Rain Vegas Instagram, I think there's a video. And I was trying to vlog as much as I could in the build, but ultimately it's genuinely been me here alone putting up truss and crazy OSHA would go nuts stuff. But I did make a little one where I was feeling particularly influencery, and I made this soundbite, but it's so true. And I said, no one's coming to save you. If you want to build your dream, you're going to have to build it yourself. And then I went, so pick up a fucking hammer, because that's literally what I was doing. And ultimately, it's so interesting because by doing it on my own and just doing it, more people came to help after the fact when I'm going, well, I wish you'd have been, couldn't you have offered me a bunch of free truss before I spent $10,000 on it? But it's the fact that I spent $10,000 on it and people went, oh, you're really going for it, that people show themselves, and then suddenly the generosity of time.
In their mind, and like this set, they're going, they were getting rid of it anyway, but because you're in their mind, then it's like it becomes a possibility, because even giving away stuff that's not immediately next door. It means there's trucks. There means there's so much. So you just go, okay, we're already on a roll.
Yeah.
Are we going to separate this out because this is?
Mm-hmm.
But when you start working and you start creating something, like it's amazing the stuff that is in here now.
Yeah, and the people that have come forward out of nowhere because they ultimately just go, oh, you're running at it. It's so many people these days. I think showbiz is a lot about it. Is like an idea and a pitch deck, and now some chat GPT, which can do an amazing job of like what would cost you thousands in either a sizzle reel or a visualization render. And then they're going for the ask for the money. And just build it.
Yeah.
Like it might not be the perfect thing you wanted. It might be that first year of Adelaide.
Yeah.
And I never thought we would I'd in 3 years in be going, oh, it's still not the thing. Like when we have the big show, and I'm like, we're selling like 900 seats a show in Adelaide. And I'm going, yeah, but when we have the big show, because we're selling 15,000 tickets, but we're still bumping in and out in 15 minutes either side. Imagine what we could do, or what we did when we're in a theatre where we're the only show there every day. You know, so it might not be your absolute perfect situation, but if you build it yourself or get with your friends and build it, it's just never the road you think it's going to be, but it ends up being better.
Yeah. It's so easy to jump onto a train that's already moving. But then you got to make the train first to make it rain, and then people will come. And they're jumping on. And no, it's so amazing,
and it's almost quite emotional to sit here with you in Vegas talking about it, really, because everything here, the last time maybe you and I have sat just the two of us like this, would be pre-Way of the Showman, pre-you coming, but you leaving Vegas and thinking that's it. My new friend, this new amazing talented friend I have that I just moved to Vegas, and I was struggling with some like visa things, and and he's going now, and then to be spending good 6 months of the year in each other's company.
It's amazing.
Doing all these things we were just thinking about is very cool. And it's not like we're special. It's just so interesting. Yeah. When it's just, I had a contractor come here, and he's just like, failure is not an option with you. And that sounds like, oh, you're so good at something. I think, no, it's not. That actually means you're a madman. Like, you know, me sawing bits of wood before we go on when I'm still in costume. Sometimes it's a terrible idea.
Pictures of you there and me going, are you sure you know where your dog leash and everything is? And then like going, oh, because I was like,
this is a prop.
See
the
one
dog leash prop.
When I was looking, that you use for your spinning, spinning the beer. Stuff that you are literally, and the audience is coming in, and you're using a circular with your necktie up around on the back so that you won't. And I'm like, because if you don't, and then you're like, no, got my head around it, and then 5 minutes later you're out. I don't know where that is. So I'm like outsourcing your props for the act for the because you're so.
You're
busy.
doing my presets because I'm trying to finish a set piece.
Because they're just going to quickly finish this thing, which is in the show.
But it's so interesting to people because also like that's it. Adelaide and the Fringe has not been just about putting the work on stage. We don't have time to have a week of workshops together. We don't have, these are like super busy performers. So it's a cue to cue and a quick tech dress and a little meeting in a meeting room that isn't big enough for a rehearsal, but we can talk it through. But you've got these guns for hire that are like, what do you want me to do? Yeah, no worries. And the first 3 shows, is going to be chaotic or whatever, but no one's going to fall apart. And 95% of the show is going to be these excuse my language, but effing legends doing this compounded skill, this act that has just been so distilled and amazing that a little bit of chaos in those first few shows is going to just pay off because the show's going to be so incredible, and it's already incredible even with the eggy bits. So like for me, I get to spend the next month every day still adding these little elements because we're building something for the long term. So it's not just 4 weeks of shows getting slick. It's 4 weeks of developing this product, because at the end of 4 weeks, I added stuff in the show in the last 3 days. Because I'm like, now it's there for next time.
Yeah, and for the video of it.
Yeah.
It's like, so that you go, we want to next time be able to look at that video and all the little details that you think of towards the end as well. You want them to somehow be on the tape, so that when we look at it, what was it actually we did? That's right. I used to do that little flourish. Or,
that little moment with you and Roberto, where you would steal the bike, came in the last week or something. Like the last and it was just joyous.
And all of a sudden we solved the thing that needed to happen.
Yeah.
Because the bike needed to disappear.
And made it a moment.
And it made a moment. And then that changed all the interactions that we had before, because there was those, and where we
fool
met.
everyone into believing, well, and it is an ensemble show in its spirit, but we fool everyone into believing this is, people come and they go, so where have you guys been touring? They think we're together all the time. The show looks so slick, but actually what it is performers that are amazing and at the bare minimum turn up and deliver in their own act, but also open and minded enough to go, oh, yeah, we'll jam that on stage. Let's do it.
Well, you have the idea going, okay, I do this, you come there, and then you go, yeah, great. And then you go out, and over the week, that goes from an idea you had when you walked back home to the apartments to it being a real texture that is added to that bit.
And that first year, everyone thought we were an ensemble, and we fooled them into thinking it because we just brought each other's props on and off in a good way. We didn't have stagehands. Yeah. So out of necessity, Captain Frodo was setting Charlie's lamppost, or, and that now has become one of the biggest selling points of the show, is that all these big set pieces are happening, but we still have these great moments that you could put a technician or a stagehand on, but you don't want it, because you want to see those little moments between people.
And it's if I come on, if Captain Frodo walks on and they have seen me before, I take all of that with me, and I'm intruding on someone else's act. So to make that okay, there needs to be a moment of relation between us, because then it's like they come in and they give a tiny reaction to me, and I'm grabbing their prop or whatever, and just that little thing adds so much texture, but it also makes me feel it's not just I hand in the prop, it's now a little bit, even if it's literally 15 seconds of change.
Well, because everyone's so gracious, and we do seem to genuinely all get on, the audience, you just can't fake that. So there's so much empathy on stage with each other, because there's very few people, there's no competition, because we have all these different styles and everyone knows what they bring. There's so much empathy to sharing that stage. And I think that's so interesting. Like, I would say, I was just like thinking, I was like, it's like you downstage them. You upstage people sometimes, but with us, it's almost like you're doing something upstage, and it's almost like the person whose space it is calling you downstage to like do the shtick. You know what I mean? Because that's what people love. And I think, it's all, like I say, it's the whole experience and the whole success of the show so far is on the shoulders of that, which I thought was very magical to the cast we have, but it's shown itself that is like the momentum of that is, very interesting, that it seems to be that it just keeps itself.
The culture of the show, but it's also, it's like
perpetual. People come in, and
it's like the sourdough thing, where it's you who are doing everything, and when the person who is hiring you isn't just standing around telling people what to do, but is working harder than anyone, that is also contagious. And then me and like Chelsea and Antje, who have been in all of them, and then when I am in as well, and you have a core of the performers who all also deliver 100% on stage, but that also just goes, the reason why this is happening is because all these people are doing all this additional stuff, and that becomes a culture, and that's the culture that La Clique and La Soirée
it's so addictive. It's so interesting, because those people that have now joined for one run, Roberto and Oscar, you know, they now carry that on, and they talk to people, and I've had people come and they want to be in the show or whatever because like can't fake that
because you
culture.
hear the other things as well. That's exactly right. Then we go after the show and you go out and you have that, because that is the reality of this. What you're doing here with Make It Rain and with the warehouse and with our lives is that you can't be slumming it or thinking I just have to get through this contract and then it's going to be but because the sum of all these contracts and the sum of all these relationships that you make, that is actually your life. Now that I'm looking back at my whole life, it's where the don't be a dick really that compounds too, you know. And you've just been good and you make it happen and you overperform. You go, of course I can do, I'll do the act, and then you get there and then you are. Oh, when I was my friend in Norway who I work with, where on the first time when I was working with a Danish circus family, and they're doing rehearsals, and for whatever reason, it just is Norway, so it's raining a lot, and it's flooding, and I get a spade out and I dig a ditch so that it comes out
to divert the water.
There, and he's like, "You out there in your rain gear, digging a ditch to drain the water when no one has asked you and you're just seeing a problem and you just deal with it." It's like now that cemented that relationship so that I'm working with them. I leave here tomorrow on Monday, and Tuesday night I'm doing a show with them, and I have to do a 5-hour drive to get there. So I stretch myself to do that, and they
reciprocate,
want me to do it. Like you do, so you do these overperforming kind of, or like where you.
And it's so funny because like that story is something that you're like, it's so open to interpretation, because like the fact that you are there doing that and then telling people that as one of the greatest variety acts, which I know you wouldn't say, but if anyone, they can't be listening to this podcast and not know that you are one of the greatest variety acts in the world. But
that's why I got you on to say that.
No, but I don't think I'm the only one that would say. I think everyone would have said that that's here. The fact that you're leading with, and then I was digging some ditches is exactly so much of the ethics of like way of the show and going for what is life rich versus like someone else's story would be, I went to work for this circus and I was supposed to be the star act and I ended up having to dig a ditch. Can you believe I'd ever want to go back there? It's like, oh, well, that's a real great way to a lonely, very, very one-dimensional, you're only as good as your act life. But
something about it, and loving and thriving in that act of creation too, the organic thing of where you're just there and you're working on a wage sometimes, and it's not your best gig. But then something happens and you get out of it what you. Because if you come there with resentment, they're going, okay, well, like we were just talking about that, someone we're needing to hire you, and you get into the inevitable negotiation thing, and then you go. But then when you get there, and then you actually go, oh, somehow the fact that this was a friend style gig gave you a different freedom when you were working, and you discovered something new that you could do with your character or with your like whatever. So it's to be able to see that the potential for growth in any of those situations. Yeah, and layers in so many other areas of life. And I've learned so much through this that I thought ultimately was actually kind of if I'm honest, even though I would have loved to work with everyone, it was quite a selfish thing. I want to create this show and ride this talent and this theme to being the star of this British themed cabaret, to actually finding out I am enjoying, as much as performing, I'm enjoying stepping back and creating and collaborating. And I built this show that actually I'm trying to step out of in a way from on stage, is very much how maybe it's to do with me finding out about my neurodivergence as well, which happened rather late in life. But it's also how I'm feeling about my life and the people around it and everything. It's like, I landed if I wanted it, full-time Vegas gig that was about as good as it gets for someone who's not famous, and couldn't stay there full-time, even though I loved it. And so I've chosen this kind of, we're sitting in this warehouse, I'm going to say full of shit, but also it is full of
infrastructure that costs a lot, and some of it's been
potential.
gifted, and some of it's been, we're around acrobatic truss and lighting and hydraulic lifts and pieces of set and chairs. Who would think that, correct theatre chairs cost a fortune?
6 crates of chairs.
It's like, and I sometimes look at it, I'm like, oh, this is the sum total of my net worth at the moment, is this thing that if you tried to sell it, you wouldn't get any money for, really. But it's what can be done in here that's kind of...
It's impressive.
Every time, I don't know whether I'm a hoarder or... I don't know. Someone said something to me about London Calling, and I kind of joke about it, and I don't think I'm truly either of these things, but I said, the cast, don't worry about the cast. I said this to my friend Hugo on the first day, because he said, some of the cast seem a bit stressed, the people that hadn't worked with me on London Calling. And I said, don't worry. This week they think I'm a bad man, and next week they'll think I'm a genius. And I'm neither. It's just that when the show hits, everybody goes, this is such a great thing, it's like, it's not that they think I'm a genius. I'm kind of kidding, but it's the craziness of it. And once you've done one with me, it's still stressful, but you're like, we know what we're going to. And I think that's also like a beautiful thing for life as an artist. It's embrace the chaos and embrace the like we say, the gigs. Go for those high end, the gig that's going to pay you well and the whatever, but don't lose the chaos, because I think when you lose the chaos, that gig's going to be a poison chalice. And I think we talk about it. I never thought it would. Again, it's why it's so beautiful having this conversation now. You leaving Vegas for me and that job and everything was all kind of very sad. And I thought about you in Norway, is going to go back to Norway. And now you're living this world right now where you're coming and doing several months in Vegas in a great high profile show. And then you're going to something equally beautiful, but a beautiful bespoke circus, living in a trailer, a caravan, and then you're coming to Australia and meeting all these people that new people that have never seen you before, and people that you've known from years and all that thing. And it is the way of the showman.
Sure is.
And I think that everyone I talk to that gets the dream gig, if that's just what they sit with, it's not long before you see it in Vegas all around, without mentioning names, but you
get there, and this is my God, it's my.
You have to embrace both ends of the spectrum. And the amount of artists I know on that dream gig that go, oh, you're out at the fringe trying new things. That looks so cool. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm about to lose X amount of money and this, that, and the other. And you have 3 houses and whatever. And it's like, and also you don't want to be just down that end either. So I think it's embracing the spectrum of all that. And trying not to take on too many projects.
Once you work out how to do that, you got to tell me as well.
Yeah, I'll work it out one of these days.
What a pleasure.
Great. So great.
Thanks for coming on.
I loved it.
All right, folks, it's time for me to remind you that I forgot to remind you in the beginning of this episode to click subscribe. Find me on Instagram at The Way of the Showman. And you can send me an email at thewayoftheshowman@gmail.com. Tell me what's happening. Tell me what you're thinking. I'm really interested in what you're thinking. Maybe you're developing something incredible, and I don't even know about it. I would love to know about that. And until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.